As part of my plan to secure the border on day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship.
No, last I checked, the president can't override the Constitution. The 14th Amendment is as clear as day that there is no way he can do that.
Denver, Riggleman, you warned us, man. You're a former Republican congressman. You saw the reality of what this man represented, the threats that he posed to our country, our democracy, and our Constitution. I am sure, well, I know you well enough to know you're not the I told you so type, but man, what are you feeling right now?
Well, I think, it's amazing, right? Me being involved in elections and knowing, the Electoral College vote and the popular vote. And Ken, I think it's that not that Trump just won the electoral vote, but the popular vote was a gut punch to me.
Yeah.
And it's like we've gone from this low information voter to no information voter. And, and I think the thing that I can't square and what I've seen, what he said, first of all, is we have these two different media ecosystems, which we've discussed before. But what I can't square is that the American people, through popular and electoral vote, voted for a rapist, a felon, and an insurrectionist all in one fell swoop. So there is this small sort of tremor, this low hum of rage on, how that would happen based on the information that's available to individuals. Now, there's been recriminations and finger pointing, obviously, and even never Trump Republicans have been blamed by the Democrats for the loss, which has been interesting to watch as the tribes, self-identify again and break apart, which is what's happening. But I think it's that as an American, as somebody who took the oath, the fight continues and, you just sort of push on. What else can you do, buddy? I mean, you just sit here and look around and wonder what happened to your country for a while. And then you say, well, it's time to get back in the fight.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you, Denver. I'm back in the fight. That's why we're doing this. But it's become obvious that some of the promises that former president, now President-elect Trump, made to assault the Constitution, he's going to try to make good on. The clip we opened with, ending birthright citizenship, guaranteed by the 14th Amendment by executive order. Before I get your response, I want to cut to Neil Katyal, who I think very clearly articulates the constitutional case against this.
He also promised to sign an executive order on day one to end birthright citizenship in the United States. Can he do that via executive order?
No. Last I checked, the president can't override the Constitution. The 14th Amendment is as clear as day that there is no way he can do that. If he tries that, he will lose in court every day of the week.
Denver, this shouldn't be any surprise that a man who disdains democracy, the Constitution, our service would attempt to do something like this. Are we going to be able to marshal the energy to push back?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's about energy anymore. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic, Ken. You know me, I try to roll heavy, But I was reading Heritage, as we know very well, and they said, well, it was never completely defined, right, as individuals coming over the border and having children, that there's birthright citizenship. So there's going to be a fight on 14th Amendment grounds. And what I try to explain to people is that Trump not only owns the executive and legislative branch, he owns the judicial branch all the way up to the Supreme Court, the judicial branch. And so it's going to be interesting to me when he does this. My guess is, ACLU, other organizations will bow up to defend the Constitution and the 14th Amendment based on their interpretation of it, which has been sort of, I would say, validated through hundreds of years, right, through federal mandate, but also through other legislative opinions. My guess is this will go to the Supreme Court. And this will be one of those rallying cries for the Trump administration to actually end it. So I think what you're going to see is this massive border/immigration type of play happening, especially for the first 6 months to a year, because that's really one of the number one issues, right, that Republicans said that they voted about. So I think that we're going to see an actual assault on birthright citizenship. I just don't think there's any way around it. And I think it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and who knows what happens there based on that interpretation.
Couldn't agree with you more. I do maintain that governing is going to be tough for this group, that it's always harder than campaigning, right? And that we have certain advantages in opposition. And on issues like this, look, on other issues, I am fine with supporting an administration that has American interests at heart. But on issues like this, we need to make it hard to govern this country. That doesn't sound unpatriotic, does it?
No, no, that's what Americans do. I mean, it's sort of, right. And by the way, as you see the popular vote, I'm not trying to doom and gloom, but as you were looking at the popular electoral vote, you see the popular vote start to shrink. What is it going to be, Ken, between 0.8% and 1.5% victory in the popular vote for Trump? Not a massive mandate. I think the Electoral College is what shocked people, that he won all 7 swing states. But I think the advantage of having no information voters and their expectations are going to be hysterical, right? It's going to be more emotional. The lack of talent in the Trump administration is going to be identifiable. You're talking about loyalists over competency. I mean, they just talked about Tom Homan, who, is going to be the border czar. I mean, this guy, whatever the hell, something's up, right, with him. I mean, a very angry individual. It's almost if, this hate, this lack of whatever it means to be a real American seems to come out in these people. The thing is that, Ken, we are literally in the minority, which I did not expect, even in the popular vote after this election. So I don't think it's unpatriotic at all to fight for constitutional principles that have been validated over the decades.
Yeah, me neither. Obviously, an intentionally provocative question, but this is what the resistance requires, especially on issues of fundamental rights, constitutionality, that kind of thing. We have advantages in opposition that we actually did not when, and I know Joe Biden is still the president, but I think people know what I mean. In opposition, we can do things that we could not before. And your observation about the no information voter is spot on, because as soon as people start being deported and families ripped apart, as soon as those tariffs go up and people lose their Christmas bonuses, things like that, the no information voter is going to start asking, is this what I signed up for?
That's exactly right. And I also think, I live in Virginia's 5th District, a massive, sprawling agricultural district. So what is that ripple effect? If you start attacking, say, 14th Amendment principles, how about H-2As and H-2Bs? What happens to guest worker lists? You have lobbying groups like Numbers USA that are not only virulently anti-immigrant, I would say they're racist. And by the way, I mean, I don't want to say, Foxtrot Oscar to, Numbers USA, but that's exactly what I'm saying. There's all kinds of things that we have to look at. The ripple effect of labor pools within the country, since I actually am fairly intelligent and I'm in an agricultural district where H-2A workers are vitally important for all of the agriculture needs here in Virginia. I just wonder how it's going to be when our labor market bottoms out, when we possibly could go into a recession. I just wonder how that's going to be. I think people are going to really, really start to feel it in the pocketbook with some of these ridiculous type of things that the administration's talking about. And by the way, you're listening to the news, the Republicans out there are saying, hey, we don't care what the cost is of deporting tens of millions of individuals because we have a mandate. I mean, all this stuff is layered. So I wonder where they're going to get the talent in order to try to navigate all the things that they have to do. And I would humbly submit they don't have the talent to do it.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break here to let you know that we'd love to hear from you. Your comments, suggestions, thoughts about future topics and guests. Email us at info@thekenharbaughshow.com and make sure to rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and back to the show. A perennial question when it comes to staffing of Trump administrations. How do you feel about those who say I have a patriotic duty to go in and stay in to prevent the worst excesses from becoming realities versus our approach, which is we're not going to collaborate in any way.
Well, I mean, you have to make a decision, right? I would say for me personally, I did get a phone call the other day saying if I wanted to talk to the transition team by somebody who did not realize the effect or the extent of my opposition to Donald Trump, which was pretty
I
interesting.
hope you said yes. We need a mole. We need a mole, Denver.
Yeah, we do. Well, the thing is, I think it'd be almost a Romney thing. They're going to do their background checks, and if they do invite you in, it's to humiliate you. So these people that are saying, "Hey, I'm going to go in for checks and balances and be the competent person," I never really came out 100% for Trump, but I was never against him. I'm going to mealy mouth my way in there. I just don't think I can work for a rapist. I think that's the issue I would have going into government. And we could have that argument back and forth. But I mean, if I got a phone call saying, "Hey, Denver, do you want to be the PDD and I, in this administration?" As soon as I made a decision that was against what the administration wanted and it was deemed as disloyal, you're going to be fired. Past performance is indicative of future performance. How about some cliches? A leopard never changes their spots. We could go into all that, but he's going to be the same that he was and maybe worse. So for anybody to go in with rose-colored glasses right now, I think they're drunk on their own bathwater.
Last question, a little personal. How nervous are you about your security, your family's security? You're much higher on the list, certainly than me, certainly than most people. I'm talking about the enemies lists that have been circulating. Is there anything you can tell us about how you're feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see what happens on January 21st. I really have I try not to get paranoid about it. I don't get hysterical about it. And I know there's some people out there and God love them, they're worried about retribution and things like that. This is a big country and we're still Americans. And you said we do have some safeguards left in the legal system. However, I'm not above thinking I'm going to be subpoenaed for my role in the January 6th committee as a senior technical advisor. I'm not above thinking I'm going to be subpoenaed for some kind of whatever bizarre thing there could be, and that's fine. I actually welcome it. I hope that I hope they come after me a little bit. I think that always gets me going. So really part of it, Ken, is I'm not that worried about it, but there's a part of me that's sort of been itching for a fight. And if they want to subpoena me because of the January 6th committee, God help them, because you know how I am on camera and you know how I am with facts and data. And if you want to come at me, I'm going to be dragging an axe. Yeah. So bring it.
Well, I hope they don't for your sake, but if they do, right there with you, man. Thanks for.
I know you are, Ken.
Thanks for everything, Denver.
I know. All right, buddy.